All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pump House series of artist talks, where we sit down with exhibiting artists to discuss their work, inspiration, and processes. Today, I am joined by Colleen Shore, who has 3 oil paintings on display in our group exhibition celebrating 100 years of the Upper Mississippi River Wildlife and Fish Refuge. Colleen is a local artist who first moved to the Driftless region to study art at UWL, and creating had always been her passion. And in most recent years, she's began working in oil paints. So thank you for joining me today, Colleen.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm so looking forward to this Friday's reception, February 2nd.
Yes, yes, it will be wonderful. I highly recommend everyone come and see the work in person. So why don't we get into the pieces in this exhibition and discuss your process
Sure.
and style. So here's the first piece, Bottomland, but in
Yeah.
oil. Can you describe a little bit of your process and your artistic background and how long you've been painting specifically?
Okay. Well, this painting itself was done in my studio from a photograph. I like to venture out into the Trempealeau National Wildlife Refuge, and this is it. I think they call it the Bottomlands, down by the Delta Road. And it was a nice early morning, so the colors are so different. Many of the trees are in the floodplains, so they offered sort of a different a look to them. Many of them probably have passed on. And I do oil painting. I also do like to plein air when it's convenient with the weather. Um, what else was the question?
Well, let's dive a little bit into what you mean by plein air for people who
Oh,
don't know.
sure. Plein air is really the act of the artist creating on site outside in the moment, capturing the light that is happening. So, one of the things that you need to achieve as a plein air painter is to paint rather quickly because shadows are changing, colors are changing. But it's a wonderful way for the artist to learn to be more observant of what's happening around them, and it's a wonderful way to paint because you just immerse yourself and you're in the moment.
And you mentioned that you only started using oil paints a few years ago. Does the type of paint you use determine if you're going to work from a photograph or in the natural setting itself in plein air?
Well, that is a great question. I originally started in acrylics, but I did move over to oils as I was discovering what the plein air artists were doing, especially in our area, like with between the bluffs. And it seemed that it was the choice material to do oils because you can do it in much colder weather. That you don't have to depend on water not freezing, such as with acrylics or watercolors. They're a little slower to dry. So if you happen to get an insect that drops in and enjoys your canvas, you can still remove them.
Well, great. Thank you for explaining that. And thank you for mentioning the background to this specific piece. Let's move into another piece in a slightly different season. That's another thing I really enjoy about the pieces you have on display. You can really see the variation of the times of year within the refuge. So, is there any specific comments you'd like to make about this painting?
Yes, this painting was one of the first in a series of paintings I was doing last year. And then I heard about the call to enter for the 100th anniversary of the refuge. And I had done, stop that. I had done several in the different seasons. I wanted to capture what winter looked like, spring, summer, fall. This one was right at the Trempealeau Refuge at the Overlook, and I believe this was probably sort of a spring. I think there was some greens, there was still the reds, but the colors were just wonderful. And I don't even remember how I did this because it was just like in the moment, it happened, and voila.
It's gorgeous. And you can even see in this photo the wonderful texture that you achieve. Do you achieve that texture by using mostly brushes, or do you also use other ways of applying the paint to the
Well,
canvas?
yes, in this instance, I did use a palette knife, and I have been working at attempting to use thicker paints, more of an impasto, and I've also been experimenting with cold wax with using oils, which gives me a lot of texture. And I just kind of go back and forth, whatever the inspiration is.
And that cold wax is mixed into the paint to give it that additional texture?
Yes, it's
Okay,
a sort of a thickening product. It's a beeswax that's suspended in a medium, and you can just add it to your oils. Actually, other artists could add it to their acrylics. You can use it in a number of different ways, but it does really make it a little stickier, thicker. You can carve into it. It's great fun.
wonderful. Thank you. And then here's my personal favorite. I
Ah,
love the
nice.
colors in these. Would you like to describe anything about your piece, Refuge Hospitality?
Yes, the reason I called it Refuge Hospitality is you'll see that there's sort of a stick coming out of the background, and that is an osprey nest. And I still haven't had a good chance to get a photograph of an osprey, but this is something that is put up in the refuge to assist the birds that come there to have a nesting place.
Wonderful. And do you often work mainly in landscapes or do you focus on other things as well?
Well, primarily, I've been mostly doing landscapes, getting out and taking pictures or trying to paint plein air. But I do love to do figures in the landscape, um, buildings, you name it. If I come home every day from some outing and I want to paint what I just saw that day.
Wonderful. And when you add, just touching on the texture we were discussing before, when you add those things to the paint to add texture or change the smoothness of the paint, does that impact your drying time? And does that impact if you are using those in your plein air style paintings or in your studio?
Yes, the thicker the paint, the longer it takes to dry. It does kind of dry on the surface, but generally, some oil paintings that are much thicker might take up to 6 months to actually fully dry. Um,
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Well, here's a wonderful photo of yourself painting plein air. I highly recommend everyone come to the reception this Friday. Colleen will be there, and she will also have some of her books where she has multiple photos of different paintings dedicated to the refuge. So you can come and meet her and see some of those other works. Colleen, is there anything else you would like to add or would like people to keep in mind when viewing your work in person?
well, no, thank you for having me. And it's really just a pleasure to have people come out and see my art. I have numerous displays that go on throughout the year around the area. So if you can't make this show, hopefully you can make the next one.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Colleen, and thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you.